Om. Om. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahi Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarva Prachodayat. Om Sahna Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vishavahe. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Salam. Good evening. It's another very auspicious day today. We're celebrating a new year in many parts of our country. In Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Punjab, in Assam. So what makes our country so interesting is that it's all to do with the lunar calendar, and as per the auspicious moments that each of the cultures saw in our country, they started to celebrate the new year. So there is no one particular day in the year where we celebrate a new year. And each culture, each tradition has a beautiful story around it. And that's what makes it so interesting. As we keep saying, Yad Bhavam Tad Bhavati. As you feel, as you experience, so is your reality. And so are your experiences. So, it keeps reinforcing. So today I want to share with all of you something that I have been writing about in my morning awareness messages, and I thought a better understanding of that may be of help. So one particular aspect which is of great help to us in this journey, and which is going to be greatly and of immense help in the coming days, is that of detachment. And I realize when I speak to people and when some questions come to me, that detachment is not fully understood, or we have some kind of a confusion around what detachment really is. So I thought today I'll give you a bit of a perspective on detachment. And if we have some time, then we will talk about Mañana and how Mañana and detachment really are interlinked. So, as the word suggests, detachment is the opposite of attachment. When we are not attached to something, we say that is detachment. Now, what does it really mean? Does it mean that detachment means that we stop performing our actions in life? Does detachment mean that we stop caring for the people in our lives? Does detachment mean running away into a forest or in the mountains? So, what is detachment? To my understanding and my experience, detachment is the ability to act as per the situation, as is the right act to do, without bothering about the consequences or without trying to please people or to come up to the expectations of people. That means that when we are able to perform our actions for the highest or the higher good of everyone, especially our loved ones, without changing it, knowing that somebody might get upset with it, or knowing the reactions of people when we start to alter it so as it becomes pleasing to others, and trying to manage that is where the difference between attachment and detachment comes. And detachment does not mean that we stop performing our actions and our duties towards our loved ones. In fact, we have to, when we get detached, we are able to perform our duties towards our family and the people who are part of our life with far more degree of perfection than we can when our emotions are involved with people. And that does not mean, detachment does not mean that we stop loving our people. Detachment does not mean we start creating a distance from our people. Detachment means that when you are interacting, you are operating out of the highest love that you hold in your heart. You are operating as if the people that you are dealing with are not able to make a difference, that you are detached. But you are doing it as an act without getting involved in it, without getting worried in it, without getting attached to the result of it. And it's like moving into a situation, doing the very best that you can in that situation, in that event with the people, and then having the ability to disconnect the next moment because you are now out of it. What happens with most of us is we linger on. We get into something, and if it is to do with our family or our loved ones, and then after that situation or event is over, we keep thinking about it, we keep worrying about it, and our mind is fully engaged in those people. And that is the sign of attachment. A detached person is one who gets in and out of situations, in and out of relationships, and when is engaged in the relationship, when is engaged with those people, is it fully involved with those people, fully engaged with the people, trying to help all the people. But when you move on to something else, you are completely disconnected. You move on to the next thing. That means what has happened some time back is no longer lingering or is no longer holding or occupying a certain part of your mind and you are not thinking about it. That ability to disconnect when the situation or event is over, and the ability to connect back when it is required, is how detached attachment takes place. You're able to attach at will and you are able to detach at will. Because if the people that you're dealing with, your loved ones, your husband, your wife, your children, whoever, your mother, your father, whoever we are dealing with, if they even remotely feel that our detachment is conveying a lack of love, then people get concerned and they start to feel something in their heart. There is a contraction that takes place. But remember, we are talking that detachment leads us to this pure love, with our ability to love everyone unconditionally. So, how can detachment actually take us away from the love of the people who are already in our lives? And that's why I've often said that when we talk about love all, it's most important that we first learn to love ourselves and then love the people who are in our life, our immediate family members. And then the circle spreads from the self to the family, and from the family to the society, and society to the nation and to the world. So this love has to come in, but this love is pure and it lacks the hooks of attachment. And our ability to go and touch the hearts of people, especially the people who are close to us, and disconnect. One moment fully connected, and at the second moment fully disconnected, is what I mean by detachment. Yeah? And that, I'll give you an example. On my journey, as I started to get onto this journey, slowly, one by one, the very close attachments in my life started to disappear. Uh, However, the consciousness still had two very strong responsibilities in my life, and that was my son and my daughter. With the early departure of my wife, it was upon me to look after the requirements of my children, which requires that they need to feel that they are loved, that there is someone in their lives who is looking after them, who's looking after their emotional and their needs for this love. And at the same time, the journey that I was on was of a complete detachment and withdrawal. Not living with the children, living away from them. They are still young and they are still growing up, and yet connecting with them at a level where they feel secure that there is a father who's doing the role of the mother as well, and yet being away. And it took me time to understand how to perfect this art, how to really be in the moment with them at one point of time where they do not have any doubt in the way you deal with them, in the way you engage with them, that their father has withdrawn or their father is on a path, though they know the path that he has chosen is different. But in their experience of their dealings with their father, they do not experience any lack of love, any lack of involvement. And so, even if it is for 5 minutes in a day when I engage with both my children, for those 5 minutes, I'm the most attached father. But after that 5 minutes, it's like one chapter which is just closed, and that chapter in my book opens every day, or once it is closed in a day, it opens the next day. You're not worried, you're not thinking, you're not all the time planning, you're not having your day evolve around what those things are. So I'm just giving my example so that you can understand. Everybody's examples are different, but I'm just trying to make you understand that detachment or detached life is not a life which is a dry life. It cannot be dry, because the path that detachment leads to is to self-realization that the fountain of love is inside of us. We are embodiments of love. So it cannot be dry, it cannot be devoid, it cannot be something which is, which is devoid of this emotion or this energy which we call as love. But the love starts to get purer, and it becomes far more effective and can be perceived by the others far more intuitively and far more effectively. And what this love can do for others becomes far more powerful than that love which has still feelings attached into it. That love which cringes, that love which gives the feeling of jealousy, that love that gives the feeling of anger. That is the love with attachments, where when somebody says something to you, it still hurts you. That still is a clingy love. It is an attached love, and that hurts. That is what brings pain in our life. But when you start detaching, and then the love that starts to come out is the love which is reactionless, which moves beyond all these emotions, because the emotions will come of anger, of irritation, of like, of dislike, of jealousy. All these things happen when there is still some ego or attachment left. But once they start to go away, you're able to take anything that comes from your family, from your loved ones, without it having the the pointed ability to prick us. It becomes almost like flowers being thrown at you. You smile, you engage, but you know that it is not touching you anywhere. And that slowly, as we get into this kind of a detachment, one starts understanding, and one can only perceive it within oneself. But where am I on this? Am I still worried about people? Am I still worried about the people who are there in my life, for their safety, for their success, for their well-being? Am I still? Do I lose some sleep over it? Do I think about it? Then if I do, then I'm still attached to it. But if I understand that, like me, my children, my parents, my husband, my wife are all like me, parts of the same divinity, same universal consciousness, and that the consciousness is taking care of everybody at all times. It's not just I'm not special that it will just take care of me. We're all equal. We're all blessed. The only difference between some of us is that some are aware of it, some of us are not aware of it. But consciousness does not differentiate. Consciousness has no favorites. Consciousness does not say that, I am better than you. For consciousness, everything is equal. I may perceive in my mind that, that you are better than me, right? But it's our perception because of our individual limited ability. But for consciousness, as far as consciousness is concerned, consciousness seeks or sees no differences at all. So that is something that we must understand, that at all points of time, not just me, but all the people of my family too are being taken care of by the consciousness. And so therefore there is no reason for me to worry or to think of what's going to happen and how it should be planned, right? And when that understanding, see, if we are holding fear in us, that fear is in me, and I am trying to put this fear on my family and say I'm worried about their safety and well-being. But if I am secure inside my heart, then that security, that connectedness with that one consciousness, that love, is going to take care of not just you, but everybody in your family. Because remember, it's all one consciousness. So when we operate out of limited consciousness, or the jiva, or the body mind consciousness, or the name and form consciousness, if you are still stuck there, then we see separation. And that is where we get into these emotions which make us attached to the people who are around us. And when we are able to view our own selves and everybody through this vision of one consciousness, through this vision of that we are all part of the, or we are the manifestation of the same divine love, and when we let this divine love operate through us, then these attachments start to automatically fall away. And that's the only way. When we say when we talk about the concept of love all, the love all can happen only when we detached. Because as long as we keep taking actions towards attaching ourselves to the world, we are pulled by its delusion. As long as we keep going closer and closer to individual people, then it leads us into attachment. And it is that attachment that starts to bring us pain in our life. And so once we understand really what, and we are able to perfect this art of detached living, then it is beautiful. Because and you know, this is how a guru, or even let's say we say there is God, someone says Sai Baba is God, somebody says Jesus is God, somebody says Allah is God, and we say that God loves all. How is God able to love all of us when we have imperfections in us? We know that we have imperfections, right? Yet there is a God that despite our imperfections loves us. How does that happen? Because God is not 24/7, looking at us with a microscope and saying, oh, what good did we do today? What good, bad did he do today? Seeing all the things under a magnifying glass. No, God is detached, is watching everything like a witness. The higher bird, in the message today of Mandukya Upanishad, as a higher bird, God is observing and watching everything. And when it observes in a detached way, it's able to love everybody. Because the minute you come closer is when we start to see the imperfections, right? And this is what Jesus said when he said, love thy neighbor as thyself, because neighbor is the same person whose imperfections are known to us. And it is very difficult to love the people whose imperfections we know, because the closer we get, we've seen it in our lives that when we get closer to people, first there is joy in meeting them and getting closer and closer to them. And then after a period of time, as we get closer and closer, more and more pain comes from the same set of people, right? So, which means that if you get too close to the fire, you're likely to get burnt. If you get too close to the world, you will be sucked into it and you will become part of that delusion. And remember, The world is constantly operating in the alternating cycles of dark and light, the good and bad. And that is an important cycle, because if this two sides were not there, the yin and yang, we will never develop. We will never get transformed and transmuted. Because if one force was getting applied on us, there would not be any kind of a change on us. Right? For example, let's say we are living in a family, or we are living in a society. It's a closed society of 100 to 200 people, right? Let's call it an ashram, whatever you want to call it. When we live there are different types of people. There are people who are driven by the mind, there are people who are driven by ambition, there are people driven by ego, there are people driven by love, right? And there are people with different kind of samskaras, and they are all being driven by their innate nature. Now what happens in such a way, in such a situation, when people are leading lives inspired by different instincts that they are carrying within them, they are able to attract some towards them, and they are able to repel some away from them. So the people of the heart, when they come and closer to the people of the mind, then suddenly there is a repulsion that happens. And the people of the heart who've chosen that path, they start withdrawing, because they do not like the world of the mind, and they say, I am much better off in my inner space. And what do? We start detaching from the world. That same world that we liked and loved one point of time, and we participated in, now suddenly is no longer very attractive to us. And then we start to withdraw from that, and we start to go into a state of detachment, right? So if the people of the mind were not there, we would not go into detachment. So each one is playing a very important role in our lives to bring us to a point where we are today. And if they were not there, we would not be where we are. So everything is relative. Everything is because something else is happening in the world. But what do? We start to criticize the world of the mind. We start to, call this, we start to give it names. We start to get judgmental about it. But that's not true. It's actually, we should be full of gratitude, because it is because of the world of the mind that we have discovered the world of the heart. Because remember, at some point of time, we were also participating in the world of heart, till we realized that it is hopeless. It's a no-win situation. So everything in consciousness has a reason and also has a season. Like when our season came, we disconnected, we withdrew in, and we started to experience something which was so powerful inside of us, which maybe 10, 20 years earlier wouldn't have been possible. But now we are beginning to experience, because the season has come. Because there is still the other people over there. So everybody is playing a perfect role in consciousness. The people of the mind are pushing the people of the heart inwards. And if they were not there, we would not be where we are. And so therefore, their time will come too. Their season will also come when they are ready to get ripened on this tree of consciousness. They will move away from this world of the mind into the world of the heart. There will be someone in the world of the mind who will be pushing them into the world of the heart. It is like a assembly line, right? There is a production happening. There are some good pieces, there are pieces or products being made for different markets. A lot of 99% of the product is made for the market of the mind, but there is a 1% production that is happening for the market of the heart, right? And slowly this number is going to start increasing. More and more production will happen for the world of the heart. So that's how it is. It's very beautiful. This detachment is coming because of attachment and because of the pains of attachment. And then we learn how to go like perfectly skilled dancers or a perfectly skilled actor. We go back into the world, engage with our loved ones in the language they understand, right? Be there, do what we need to do, perform our responsibilities, and exit out. And in that minute that you exit out, there is no lingering thought even of what has happened. It becomes an act. It's like an actor who's asked to come on stage in a scene, say the lines, perform the action most convincingly. It's like an Oscar winning performance. You go in, you perform, and you exit. You go in, every time you're called, you perform to the best of your ability so that nobody even realizes that you are not attached. That's how perfect this act has to be. But in your heart, you're absolutely detached. You neither have a worry, you don't have an anxiety. You know the consciousness is bringing the best for everybody, because all the time you're praying for Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. You're always praying that in the highest prayer for the well-being of all the beings in all of creation lies the welfare of your loved ones too, and your family and yourself as well. And you trust in that process, because you are that process. You are one with that process. As long as you are separated, as long as you feel that you are not that one consciousness that protects all, that guards all, that loves all, if you are operating from separation, there will be fear, anxiety, and attachment. But if you operate out of oneness, then you will experience only complete detachment, and you will experience that pure selfless love. And that is constantly happening. We know it or not, every little drama in our life, every little act and scene in our life is slowly pushing us into that, And all we need to be is to become aware that such a play of light and dark, such a play of yin and yang is happening constantly. And to be aware of that, to be able to reflect upon it, to be able to sit and see it, is what is called as Mañana. When you are able to see the play between the permanent and the impermanent, between the ephemeral and that which is true today and which will be true tomorrow. And what is that truth? You are that consciousness which is changeless. And it is that consciousness which is in control all the time, where all the safety and protection of all the people that you love in your world are all being taken care there. That Mañana, that state of consciousness, that bird on the higher branch is where we have to be. And when we get to that point, we are always engaged. And when we are secure, the path is not steep, it is not dark, it is not painful. It becomes beautiful, because the path is unknown to each one of us. But what image we are holding inside is going to decide what our journey is going to be. You change the image within, everything, the whole world changes for you. For those who are still holding on to these tough images, I request them for their welfare, for the love that they have for God and for consciousness. Change your image and see the magic, that how everything in your life will start shifting. It's all about, we think, life has taken us through the hard route. We never see that we have been responsible for that. And if we change that vision, if we change our view, it suddenly starts to manifest a completely different reality for us. Try it out and see for yourself how it works. Let us not be prisoners of our past experiences. Let us not hold these tough lessons onto us. We should always be willing to let go of what we have held on to, what we believe to be true for us in the past. We should be willing to let go in an instant in the altar of Trikuti and say, I let go. Because our inability to let go is where we keep dragging our past into our present. And that means our present is nothing but our future. Because what we are dragging with us today will be dragged in the future as well, because future is nothing but moments of the present moment. So if we understand that, and how will we know it, but we forget it. Because what happens with each one of us? We don't do Mañana. We don't sit with this higher consciousness, during the day, in the morning or in the night, and we don't do this mana regularly. So what happens when the situation comes? We only look at it in isolation. We react to it from a limited consciousness because we are not in the habit of being in constant manana. So therefore, all our fears come in the forefront, and therefore all our insecurities come in front, and therefore things start to crumble for us. But if we are in the habit of this manana, far more than having an energetic experience, it is important to be in this state of awareness. We should be able to handle and control the energies inside of us, but remain in the state of awareness that I am that one consciousness. And when you operate out of that, everything starts to come in exactly as you want it to be. Because remember, you have the power of manifestation. Yad bhavam tat bhavati. The bhava, to hold that bhava, you need to do manana. And manana is not thinking. A lot of people confuse the thinking process of the mind to be manana. That is not thinking. Thinking is what the mind does when it thinks of itself as just as a body and a name. So as long as we are caught onto this limited I-ness of ourselves, is whatever the mind will do, it is thinking. That is not manana. Manana is only the deeper aspect of that I am not this body-mind consciousness, but I am this energetic, universal awareness, which is what this whole of world is all about. And the reason I started to write these daily messages of awareness was only that if we can hold on to this one thought during the entire day, and we can go around doing all the work that we are doing, but hold on to this thought, and it's like this thought is marinated inside of us, and we are constantly reflecting upon it. It slowly will take us out of our body-mind consciousness, limited consciousness, into that higher perch, that higher branch on which awareness will settle down forever. I can assure you, you will never go back onto a lower branch, because you're by habit, by doing this manana constantly, you suddenly will find one day that you are on the higher branch. It's not something that you do. You don't try to move from a lower branch to a higher branch, but just by doing this manana, try it. Just hold on to these thoughts, and your life just changes, and you realize I've done nothing, but yet everything has changed. Yeah, and it is not rocket science. If you believe in these words, if you try it out, it reinforces in you that life isn't as complicated as we've made it out to be. But because of those preconceived ideas and notions and beliefs, which we are carrying with us, and our inability to let them go, for some strange reason or the other, is why there is any reason for us to suffer in life. That's what I wanted to share with all of you. I hope it's made some sense. Look forward to hearing from you about your experiences and any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for being here. I have abundant gratitude to all of you, to consciousness, for making these conversations happen. These are the direct guidance that comes from the source of consciousness. And I am forever grateful to this consciousness that it chooses every day what needs to be passed on. And I hope and pray that each one of us connects to this consciousness as one, without any separation. Samasta loka sukhino bhavantu. Samasta loka sukhino bhavantu. Samasta loka sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti.